Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. I'm Pyrrhic.
And I'm Victoria.
And today we are coming to you guys with a big mammoth of a video. Hopefully it's not super long lengthwise, but we are going to cover, or attempt to cover, yes, widthwise, depthwise, we are going to try to cover 100 episodes of Let's Play, the webtoon. And if you guys will recall, we've done 2 videos on Let's Play so far. The first video, I believe, covered 10 episodes or 5 episodes.
I think it was 5 episodes,
yeah.
And the next one was 10 episodes.
Yeah, so the next one covered up till episode 15. So in between now and then, we actually went ahead and read episodes 16 all the way to 115. A little bit more for me, because I just couldn't put it down.
A little bit more for me, too. I've read through the whole series.
Yeah, it was so fascinating. I'd never read it before, and I was reading it, and my god, it is so interesting. Right? And by interesting, I mean it got really boring.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what the point was of the story anymore. At the rate that we were covering the episodes previously, the long-form discussions going panel by panel didn't really work for Let's Play because not a lot of stuff happened.
It's not bad enough.
No, like there were.
It's not bad enough. There's not enough like joke material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have a problem on this channel. Like if you watch our other videos, we have a problem on this channel with talking too much.
Oh yeah.
And
that's not even just on this channel. That's in real life.
In real life too. But I didn't want to belabor the point with Let's Play. I think it would have been more instructional from a writing perspective.
Yeah. And
then more salient from the series perspective, like a review perspective, to cover a larger amount of material rather than just going every 5 episodes and going like, you could have done it this way, you could have done it that way. Because after a while, it's like, it's not really informative if you're going in such small increments.
Yeah.
It makes sense to look at the whole and look at the intentions of the creator for the whole story, and then kind of go in with a scalpel and go,
exactly,
this is a specific example of that larger point that we're saying about the story.
Exactly. So we're trying a little bit more efficiency this time around, and with that being said, with that 100 episodes digested, understood, percolated,
now we're gonna take a giant dump on camera.
Take a dump, avert your eyes,
and sort through the spinach leaves.
Yeah, we're gonna get our gloves on and sort through, and we're gonna talk about it. And so with that being said, I've got a little bit of a thesis statement that I put together from my big takeaways of the 100 episodes, and then you do as well.
Yep.
For what you observed. So I guess starting with my observations, the number one thing I will say is that I feel like the creator, Manji, had a strong idea of like an interesting premise and gimmick with the whole VTuber and video game thing. But something happened along the way where she was like setting things up and then knocking them down to get to the next plot point, and then the story shifted from what could have been like really funny, hijinksy, tropey to just like an office romance.
Yeah.
Right? And it seems like either she lost interest in it, or there was like some sort of executive meddling that was pushing her down a certain path to go towards something that was more dramatic and more grounded or something. But where it ended up at episode 115 versus what it started as was so drastically different and so toned down and boring that I was shocked.
And especially if you binge it and you've never read it before.
Yeah. I kept wondering, like, when's the VTuber thing gonna come back?
Yeah,
and it never did.
It never did.
Yeah. So without going on too much about that, what was your thesis?
Yeah. So I have 3 major takeaways. I largely echo the same thing that you just said, where it completely lost the plot about a third of the way through. Basically, my number one observation is that the setup makes you think that it's going to be like an enemies to lovers or like rival type situation, which is always really fun to see because it's like it's fun to watch 2 people compete. And then it's like a Pride and Prejudice situation where they have misconceptions about each other, and then as the story goes on and they interact more, you have like, oh, did I misjudge this person? And then that becomes the romance. That was what was set up with the first 30 or so chapters, and it just completely pivots from even that main love interest to a completely different guy.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, like, Let's Play, there's so much material of like Sam and Marshall together, and now it's like, why even have Marshall there when he has almost less screen time than Link does?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He's become like a caricature of himself, too.
He's become a caricature of himself, and he's a background character.
Yeah.
He's not, like, it's not like he's a secondary main character.
No.
So that's crazy. And the second thing that I noticed is something that we said in the first 2 videos on Let's Play, which is that there's just too many characters.
Yeah.
And in the first 15 chapters, we already called that there were too many characters. I think from the first 15 chapters to episode 115, I think she introduces like 4 more characters.
Yeah.
The brother, the 2 friends, and then his sister.
Yeah.
Marshall's sister.
Yeah.
That's at least 4 more characters.
Yeah.
I'm probably forgetting some.
I mean, I don't know if you want to call the Botox lady a character, or like
The model.
Yeah.
And then her mom.
Yeah, her mom, and then gosh, just a lot of characters.
There's so many characters.
And then
There's
other
way too many
characters get forgotten, like
Dallas.
The intern disappears.
Disappeared.
Dee disappears for several episodes.
Yeah, she does.
Umed disappears for several episodes. It's like, yeah, it's very strange. Like, the priority of what should be focused on is never quite on target.
No, and that's what we said in the first two videos again, and we basically said you should have combined some of these characters, and I think when we talk about how it could have been done better in this video, we're just gonna say, like, combine these two characters together, combine these three characters together.
Yeah.
Because there's just way too many of them. So that's my second point. My third point is that the characterization becomes very inconsistent, specifically for Sam and Charles.
Yeah.
Because Sam in the beginning, she's introverted and she doesn't like talking to people or dealing with them, but she's very stubborn and she's very confident in her abilities.
Yeah.
She's not necessarily the most verbose or well-spoken person, but she's not timid.
No.
You know, she's not shy. She tells Marshall off in the first 10 episodes. She confronts Charles when he threatens to fire Lucy.
Yeah, she demands Charles put her on the lead on, like, some project.
Yeah.
Right?
So Sam was never like a shrinking violet. She was always just, maybe she wasn't the most sensitive person and she wasn't very social. But in the episodes recently, we're not to the part where she and Charles are officially dating yet. It's been like less than a week. And all of a sudden, she's like, Charles!
She's stuttering
like,
so much.
Hanging on to him like a child. It's such a totally 180, or total 180 for this character.
Yeah.
And then you have specific scenes where she barges into Marshall's apartment, or she makes him come to her apartment because he's sick. And it's like, when would Sam ever do this? Like, she's not the type of person who's so caring that she smothers people with kindness.
No.
That was like Vicky's character type.
Yeah.
And it's just like, she does things sometimes where it's just like, I can never imagine the Sam from the beginning of the comic doing this. And it seems like it's only there to engineer a specific outcome.
Yeah.
Specific character interactions or specific fan service scenes
Yeah.
that Manji wanted to get to.
And you can kind of see that as the comic goes on, the audience, like a lot of the top comments were people referring to the fact that people in the comments were getting annoyed at the lack of charm, which is the ship between Charles and Sam.
Charm ruined the whole story.
Yeah, and they're like, where's the charm? Where's the charm? And it's like, dude, it's been like one episode where you're talking
Hold
about a
your
different
horses.
character and they're going, where's the charm? Right? So that could have been a thing where it's like Webtoon kind of nudged Manji in that direction, like, hey, focus on this some more.
Because Sam changes to become way more timid and like a wilting flower, and then Charles changed from being like cold and manipulative to like this 50 Shades of Grey, Christian Grey type.
Yeah.
Miss Young, I'll see you in my office,
Yeah.
Like, just like, what the heck, man? And I initially liked the characters in Let's Play. That's what we said in the first two videos. They had very strong voices. They had clear kind of ideas behind them, and I still think that's the case in some episodes where she's remembering, oh, Sam is supposed to have this as her character flaw. We're supposed to be building up her confidence, and she's supposed to be, like, I like how Charles said, no, you are manipulative. Mm-hmm. Like, I like that in the story, but in the context of several episodes of Sam going, Charles, it's like, it's a little bit, like, just because you're pointing out that you're doing that doesn't make it any less annoying to read it,
Exactly.
So she knows, like, on the whole, I'll say on the whole before we move into, like, the deeper dive.
Yeah.
On the whole, Let's Play is more competently written than Lore Olympus, and you can tell Manji has ideas. You can tell she has character arcs. She has an overall plot, and you said, you mentioned off camera that she said in a Q&A that she had the beginning, middle, and end planned out. It's just the stuff in between that she struggled with, and that's, I can tell, because there's a very clear, like, through line. I understand what she's going for. Rachel, I don't even know, what she's going for half the time.
Yeah.
Manji, I know what she's going for. I can tell there's a vision there. It's just like, for some reason, she's either not nailing the landing because she keeps interrupting herself too much, or she missed times. Like, there's a timing issue when it comes to setting things up and paying it off.
Yeah.
And then there's also just way too many characters that she has to keep cutting between plot lines, so individual plot lines get rushed instead of having enough focus on them to make them as strong as they could be.
Exactly.
Like, it's just a case of she should have edited her outline and thought about how many characters she had and what kind of story she wanted to tell.
Right, absolutely. And so I know one of the things, because we did bring up the size of the cast in previous videos, and for those of you who are out there writing a story, and you're worried about the size of your cast just because we're talking specifically in this example with our regards to Let's Play about how there's too many characters, it's not necessarily the case that any series with a cast of over 10 people is going to have too many characters. Like, it really depends on the type of story you're trying to write and what the roles of those characters are.
You can have a lot of characters if you don't try to give them too much or equal screen time or too much storylines.
Yeah.
Like, Attack on Titan has a lot of characters, but there's only really 3 to 5 main characters.
Yeah.
You don't have storylines being given to, like, I don't know, Connie. You know, Connie doesn't have extended storylines. It's kind of like a secondary, tertiary character.
Yeah, it's the same thing with things like Battle Royale or Danganronpa. Just basically, like, depends on the kind of story that you're saying. So don't take that and think, like, you need to rework your cast size. It really depends on what the roles of the characters are and who gets a lot of screen time.
Right.
And the second thing that we're going to talk about is that issue that you mentioned where she has the beginning, middle, and end, but she doesn't know going from point A to B specifically what happens. So those are going to be the two things that we talk about the most in this video in terms of our perspective as, like, providing guidance on those issues. So that being said, do you want to talk about the premise of the comic for those of you who've never read Let's Play and who have no intention of reading it?
Yeah.
We'll give you a superficial overview of the premise and
the
synopsis
plot of the first 115 chapters.
Yeah. So I guess let's just get into that. So, Let's Play is the story of a young woman named Sam Young who wants to be an independent game developer.
Yep.
And the hook of the story, the big twist that separates it from other romances is this video game theme, right? Because Sam wants to be an independent game developer, and then she is a huge fan of this celebrity VTuber, which is like that universe's version of a YouTuber who plays Let's Play games. You know, he just basically records himself playing games and puts it on YouTube. And he plays her game and doesn't understand the mechanics, and then his fans send a bunch of hate to her Indigeneer profile, and that's basically like I guess a game creator profile.
It's like a platform for indie games. It's like webtoon.
Yeah, so it's basically like the webtoon for indie games, and because her score gets tanked so low, she's no longer able to put games on the platform, right? And so the whole thing is this, like, misunderstanding because his fans went after her, and then he ends up being her next door neighbor, and she doesn't like him because he didn't understand how to play her game, and she knows her game is good, and he's, like, a genuinely nice guy, and he's trying to make things right.
Well, there's also the element of betrayal because she used to be a huge fan of his.
Right.
So it made it extra personal where she was excited for him to review her game, and then when he trashed it, she lost total faith in him as a creator. So you have, like, the creator-fan dynamic, and then it turns out that Marshall himself struggles with his on-screen persona versus his real-life persona, so there's that whole dynamic, too. I mean, it's an interesting setup, and like we said in our first 2 videos, you had the potential to make that, like, really wacky and cool and anime and funny with, like, the different personas.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make Marshall struggling with his persona, like, a theme, I think, let me just finish that thought, and then I'll step back and say another problem that I have with Let's Play. But if you wanted to make the Marshall struggling with his persona a theme, you could have doubled down on that and given them both personas. You know? Sam has a persona when she's at work. Marshall has a persona when he's doing his YouTube videos. And Sam at work is not the same as Sam, the game developer. You know, and she struggles to reconcile those parts of herself as well.
Yeah.
So that's the premise. That was an interesting way to take Let's Play. And stepping back, with another observation that just popped into my head, I think the problem with Let's Play is that she doesn't have clear themes.
Yeah.
That's, like, the ultimate, like, the reason there's too many characters, there's too many plot lines, she doesn't know what to focus on, she doesn't know what kind of story she wants to tell from a thematic standpoint.
Exactly, because I was going to say, when you're talking about the dual personas, the thing
that's
that
identity.
It's identity.
Yeah.
But the thing that popped into my head is you tie that into the video game, because MMORPGs, like, they have this, what is it called, World of Warcrest or something in the story. It's like an MMORPG where you play with a character avatar. You could go into how video games are like an escape for people who have trouble adjusting to interactions in real life. That's like a huge draw of video games.
Well, a huge draw of video games is role-playing, so you play as the person that you've always wanted to be in real life.
Exactly.
Or a person that you could never be in real life. And I think if you had identity as a core theme of Let's Play, we haven't even finished recapping the story, but I think you could have had that play out in an interesting way with Charles, because Charles starts trying to kind of make over Sam's personality. And then Marshall struggles with his identity, and Sam could be like, that's why she doesn't get on with Charles, because Charles wants to change who she is.
Yeah.
And Sam has a very clear-cut idea of who she is, and she doesn't want to go along with what Charles is trying to turn her into.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that would have been a really clear-cut way to organize the story and
Right.
organize all the ideas.
Exactly.
But going on with the premise, yeah, he's her next door neighbor, he's a VTuber, she's a fan of his, and they have that friction going on because he bombed her game, ruined her chances of becoming a professional game developer. And then we cut to Sam at her day-to-day job. She works at a client software developer. So they take on other businesses and build software for businesses.
They're basically doing like infrastructure for handling transactions.
Yeah, it'd be like handling transactions or handling like server, server requests for websites.
Yep.
Back-end website development, just stuff like that where they build software for clients.
Yeah.
And she's just a regular developer at this company, like a low-level developer. It's a small company. It's her dad's company.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically she works at this place, Young Technologies. It's owned and operated by her father, who's the CEO. His name is also Sam. It's Samuel Young. Mm-hmm. And we find out that he's very overprotective of his daughter because she has had a host of health issues ever since she was born prematurely. And so he's very overprotective of her. She's got asthma, she's got like social anxiety, and she basically is...
She's very weak.
Yeah, she's physically weak, but she's also very conflict avoidant. Right?
But she's mentally strong. She's very intelligent.
Yeah, and so what we see is that in addition to this job and getting along well with her coworkers and everything like that, she also has friends at a local cafe called The Daily Grind. And then there's a guy who works there. His name is Link. He's a barista there, but he also works as a paramedic.
EMT.
Yeah, we find out that they've known each other for years and they're good friends.
He and Sam know each other.
Yeah, he and Sam have known each other for years and they're good friends. And I had no idea about that until the flashback came up later.
It was almost like the way that they were acting
Yeah.
had nothing to, like, it didn't come across at all.
Right.
It came across like he only knew her through D.
Yeah.
Because he started to work for D, who owns the coffee bar.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, Sam's pretty nice. I kind of want to date her.
Exactly.
But no, it's like they've been friends for years.
Exactly. So Link is introduced as kind of having a crush on Sam, but Sam is completely oblivious, right? Which further lends credence to the idea that she doesn't know how he thinks and operates, and she can't tell when he's being flirty and romantic. Which, again, it's like I'm not getting that they've known each other for years, right? And so she's got two other friends, Vicky and Angela, who are her gamer friends. And Angela, we also actually find out that she knew Sam since elementary school.
Yeah.
Right, but so Angela is the headstrong, fiery redhead who is very protective of Sam and very aggressive, and then Vicky is the calm, serene, peaceful, more mature of the two of them. And so what we get from all these interactions, though, is that her friends all coddle her, just like her dad coddles her.
Yeah,
right?
and her brother coddles her.
Yeah, her brother, who doesn't exist at this point.
No, he only comes in like episode 80 or something.
Yeah, like I think that was a retcon, but getting back to the premise, it's like everybody coddles her except for Charles, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right? So Charles...
And Marshall.
Yeah,
in the beginning,
Marshall.
he was the one who said you have to learn how to take criticism.
Exactly.
And that's why I think the ideas are so muddled, because I think Marshall should have also been challenging her this whole time, too.
Alright, so Charles is her boss.
And he's also the ruiner of this comic.
I think, so basically, at this point we've talked about Marshall, who's the VTuber.
And he's the inciting incident. That's what kicks off the entire comic.
Right, so there's Marshall, there's Link, the friend, and then there's Charles, the boss, right? So Charles...
Those are your three love interests.
Yeah, they're the three love interests. Charles is the one who doesn't really coddle her so much. He actually tries to push her buttons and goes out of his way to kind of mess with her to see if she'll push back.
And pull her out of her comfort zone.
Yeah, so he does that quite often. He's like a manipulative... He's characterized as manipulative and like, I guess, scheming, sort of, right? And so, like, without getting into the details of Jacob the intern, nobody cares about that because it doesn't come back later in the comic. Essentially, what happens after that... After the beginning,
where you have her aspiring as a game developer, and then the guy who moves in next to her is the guy who made a video, famous VTuber, she's a fan of him, ruined her chances at becoming an indie game designer, ruined her career.
Yeah.
After that beginning premise, very, a clear setup for like a rivalry or like enemies to lovers type thing, for the next 80 chapters, we cut to an office romance. With Charles, her boss.
Yeah.
And Marshall, who's the main love interest, end game, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
He just disappears.
Yeah, so Marshall, the reason he can't get with Sam off the bat is because he's got a girlfriend. A secret girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's another character. That's Monica McKenzie, and she's an influencer.
A beauty influencer.
Beauty influencer. She's like the alpha female type. I actually really like her character.
I like her character. She's just totally wasted.
Yeah, she's wasted. So The whole thing with Marshall and Monica is that she wants to go public with the relationship, and he says, no, we can't, because his fans would get angry. And we've already seen his fans are vengeful before because they tanked Sam's rating on Indigeneer. And so then what happens in between is a bunch of drama and shenanigans.
There's there's not even a point in recapping it, because you have the premise, and then you have the office romance.
Yeah.
And then you just have, like, a bunch of other stuff happening, too, that doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't add anything.
The whole thing with Link doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, so, okay, you could also talk about that, where it's like, you have the initial setup of Marshall, the VTuber rival guy who tanked your chances, and at like, episode 30... before cutting to the office romance, you cut to Link, the guy who works at the coffee shop who has a crush on her, for like 20 episodes.
Yeah.
She tries to date Link, and they only go on one date, and then on the second date, and then the second time she meets him out, like, you know, just going out to get food, he's about to kiss her, and then he says, I'm not attracted to you.
Well, no, it's not when they're going out to get food. It's when they're coming back from the hospital.
No, but he takes her out to get food.
Because Marshall almost dies.
Yeah, but it takes, like, that's, like, episode 80 before he says, I'm not attracted to you.
Yeah.
So from episode 30 to episode 80, because episode 30 is when she's trying to, like, Marshall tries to pay her. He realizes what he did wrong, that he played the game wrong, and he's like, I want to make it up to you. Let me pay you the money that I made from that video. And then she says, no, I don't want your money. I want you to play my game again and give it a fair rating. That gets cut off at, like, episode 29.
Yeah.
And from episode 29 to episode 115, there's, like, maybe 10 episodes dedicated to continuing that plot line.
Yeah.
And in between, at, like, episode 80, because episode 79 is the season 1 finale, like, 10 episodes before that, so, like, in the episode 60-something, Link tells Sam, after going out on one date with her, that he's not attracted to her.
Even though he's the one who pursued her.
But he's been pursuing her this entire time.
Yeah, so just to recap the major events that take place, right, is that you have Link tries to date Sam.
Yeah.
Doesn't go anywhere.
No.
Marshall replays her game.
Yeah.
And discovers that it was...
actually good.
Actually good and dedicated to him.
Yeah.
And the reveal that it was dedicated to him, it makes him so upset at how things turned out that he has, like,
a heart failure.
Yeah, a cardiac arrest, basically, and he has to go to the hospital. And then you have Charles forcing her out of her comfort zone and saying, I won't make you the CEO of the company because you're truly passionate about game development, so I'll make you my assistant so I can teach you how to be more business savvy.
Charles starts acting all creepy Charles out of nowhere. It's like he sensed that other men were interested in her. He's like, I've got to throw my hat into the ring. So he, like, rips off his shirt and gives it to her at one point. Maybe it was because she walked into the office and he saw that she was, like, stacked. And he was like, oh, I gotta get on this.
Well, yeah.
So after that scene where she walks into the office and she spills coffee on her shirt and she has to wear, like, a tank top.
Yeah.
Then he, like, gives her his shirt off his back. And he, like, intimidates her while shirtless. And then after that, he takes her out to lunch, I think.
Yeah, lunch.
He takes her out to lunch, and then she confesses that she doesn't want to inherit her father's company. She wants to be an individual indie game developer.
Yeah.
And then Charles says, okay, well, you need to learn more business acumen because you, like, suck, you know? You're very timid, you're very soft-spoken, you don't know what it takes to run a business, so I'll cut you a deal if you become my chief of staff, basically, and study under me, I'll be your mentor.
Exactly.
He offers to mentor her, basically.
Exactly.
And then from episode, I think that's like 30-something, no, it's like 40-something, to like 115, it's just a series of increasing shenanigans between Charles and Sam, where after Link tells Sam that he's not attracted to her, Sam just moves on from Link to Charles like nothing. Sam just starts throwing herself at Charles. Like, from my perspective reading it, it felt like she was doing it because she liked the attention.
Yeah,
because Charles is a good-looking guy, and he's very confident, and he likes messing with her.
Yeah. And
she, like, before he started messing with her, they had a cordial, formal, like, cold relationship.
Yeah.
And she liked the attention. She liked the attention from Link. That's what she even admitted to herself. She's like, I don't know if I like Link or if I just like the attention.
Yeah.
She really likes the attention from Charles because it's a huge ego boost that he's so good-looking and he could have any woman. She says that.
Yeah.
You could literally have any woman you want. He's, like, banging half the girls in the office building.
Yeah.
And then he goes after, like, the fact that he's even paying attention to Sam is, like, a huge ego boost for her.
Mm-hmm.
So she starts throwing herself at Charles, and that's basically the plot.
Yeah.
From episode 30 to episode 115, and then, like, you just have Marshall playing her game in the background, and then Marshall and Monica are about to break up. But that's, like, episode 115. They're, like, fully finished.
Yeah.
By, like, episode 140, 150 or something.
Right. And then the only other thing to say about that is that Charles also plays her game.
Yeah, Charles also plays her game, and it's interesting because you see because her game is a personality-based It's a very flexible game. You could take a bunch of different routes, and which route you choose is based on your personality. And it's an interesting parallel between Marshall and Charles.
Yeah.
What result they get from playing her game.
Right.
But there's like, it's not like she gives the proposal to Engineer and her game gets restored, the rating gets restored. It's not like, I think at 1:15, Marshall had just recorded the footage for Ruminate. He hasn't posted it yet. So it's not like the game is getting like tons of accolades and like she's making tons of money off of it. She's getting, offers to publish it from serious game developers. There's like nothing. Yeah. That entire plot line is just gone.
Yeah.
It's all focused on Sam, like, blushing around Charles now.
There's a lot of random stuff that doesn't matter that happens in between, like the toilet paper theft, the raids of the video game with the cameos from other webtoon
What about
creators.
Dallas? Link's younger brother.
Yeah, Dallas serves no point in the story. There's like no...
Abe.
Couldn't tell you. Abe, he's a vegetarian.
Edgar and Olivia.
Good for him. I mean, like, I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff. So that's the basic recap. And you could probably tell, like, we struggled to talk about that because so much stuff happens that wasn't even useful for the story.
There's so much stuff that happened that it's impossible or it's very difficult to describe what actually happened in a way that cuts all the fat and just tells you what you need to know.
Yeah.
And if you were to boil down the first 115 episodes of Let's Play, I would say it starts off being like an enemies to lovers, video game focused plot with Sam trying to be an indie game developer and getting screwed over by Marshall.
Yeah.
And like misconceptions and like, prejudgments and all of that. Both of them having to redeem their images in front of each other. And it becomes an office romance.
Right. So
like literally episode 30 onwards is like an office romance, and it's like if you cut the first 30 chapters out and you just had it like Sam choosing between Link, her childhood friend, and Charles, her hot boss, you could do that and you wouldn't miss much.
No, exactly.
The gaming stuff is ancillary to the character arcs. It's ancillary to the main themes and plot of the story. And it could, like, there's a way to make it ancillary to the theme and the main plot, but still integrate it enough so that it feels like it's at least echoing those themes.
Right.
But when Marshall and Charles are playing her game, it almost feels like, what's the point of this? It doesn't echo the main theme of the story. And it goes back to what I was saying, which may or may not have been cut, where I said that actually, upon further reflection, I think the problem with Let's Play is that there's no core theme.
Yeah.
There's no core, idea in Let's Play. It's just a series of characters and a series of character arcs and a plan, but there's nothing tying it together to make it all feel like it's all driving towards the same point.
I think the initial setup at the end of, because it's like at the end of the episode 3, or might even be at the end of the first episode where you reveal that Marshall, the VTuber, is her new neighbor, right? That seemed like purely a gimmick for shock factor when you look at how the actual story plays out.
Exactly. It's like, that's not even the story.
It didn't deliver what it promised in the first episode.
No, to the point that in one of the later episodes, like I think around episode 100, she says, if Marshall wasn't a VTuber and hadn't played my game and filmed it, then this would be a totally different story. Yeah. And I was like, not really, because that has nothing to do with the story now.
Not anymore.
Nothing to do with the story.
No.
And then other than the premise completely changing in the story, there's also the similar issue to Lore Olympus with the timeline. I think episode 115, which is over 2 years in the story, it's less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into it probably. Now we can start talking about where it went wrong. Yeah. Because we're going to start naming specifics about the story where it's just like you could tell what she was going for, and then you can also specifically say what about the execution was bungled. Right. Yeah, a lot of stuff happens that doesn't really have to do anything with the theme, like you said. Yeah. So it's difficult, again, like you said, to know what to talk about. And that really, to us anyway, the reason behind this confusion, this overabundance of ideas with no real place to put them, comes from the fact that Manji was basically working on a week-to-week schedule, but she didn't exactly know what happened in between the episodes of her story.
I think she had an outline, but I think what she should have done before she started putting pen to paper is I think she should have edited her outline with the idea of, like, your big idea for your story. So if you have stuff that doesn't fit, like Dee as a character does not fit into the story, just cut her out. Yeah. The whole subplot about Link and Angela doesn't fit into the story. Just cut it out, The whole fencing thing with Charles doesn't fit into the story. Just cut it out. I used to think that themes were just pretentious and namby-pamby. You don't need a theme, you just need a good story. Yeah. Themes are usually there to help you write a story in a way that's coherent and clear, And it's so that you don't have this situation where you have 50 ideas and you don't know how to fit them into a story. There's just too many ideas, and you use your theme to say, okay, the main theme of Let's Play is identity, struggling with identity, and the masks that we wear to project confidence and success on the outside versus who we really are on the inside. If that was your main theme, then Link and Angela's plotline makes no sense to include because it has nothing to do with that theme. You know, maybe Charles's fencing thing could be included if it was, you know, Charles in his heart really wants to be a fencer, but he does this whole business thing because, you know, he doesn't have the confidence to live as his true self.
I'll tell you what about Charles doesn't fit the theme of identity.
Marriage.
His divorce!
Yeah, the marriage thing.
That's another thing we forgot to mention. He was apparently married and then he got divorced,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why he has, like, commitment issues.
Yeah.
But I think that was retcon.
I think so, too.
I think that was totally retcon. I don't think it was there at the beginning of the story. But yeah, so that basic misstep of not having themes.
Yeah,
and not knowing what to keep
and what to cut.
Yeah. And that's because, like, again, you've said off camera, if you're writing a book that you can go back to and edit, and then you release it as one full product after editing it and iterating on it, you can do that. You can
go in with a bare outline and no real plan.
Yeah.
Because you can just edit it when it's already written.
Yeah, but when the episode is out there, it's out there.
Yeah.
Right? So that makes it a lot different when you're doing a webcomic that
When you're doing something that releases in increments, you really need to have a plan. And it doesn't need to be like super uber planned, but you have to have the outline, and I think you need to have a theme. You need to have an idea of where it's going. You need to have an organizing principle.
Yeah.
Because then you'll know what to keep and what to cut, and you'll know what storylines you've kind of thought of fit in with that theme and what to execute on week to week. And
Exactly.
I think at the bare minimum, you should have like bullet points.
Yeah.
For your different chapters.
Yeah.
For like maybe the first 10, 20 chapters, and then you can just take a break and then, you know, do the next 10, 20 chapters, bullet points of what happens next.
Exactly. I agree. And so, the way it played out in this story, and the things that you can learn from it, the specific examples we're going to cover, we have like a list here of items that we're going to go through, starting with the fact that there are too many characters,
Mm-hmm.
and as a result, no strong theme, right? And the best example of that is the entire plot line surrounding Angela and Link's romance.
Yeah.
Link is a character.
Yeah.
It's like, what is he doing in the story? What purpose does he serve?
He should have effed out of the comic the second he said he was attracted to her. It's like, I'm not attracted to you, get out of the comic, bro.
Yeah, so to kind of provide some more context for the whole Link setup, we mentioned he works at the coffee shop as a barista. He turns out to have been Sam's childhood friend because
Not childhood friend. She knew him when she was like a teenager.
Yeah, a teenage friend. While she was in and out of the hospitals because she has a lot of illnesses, he was there because his father was dying of cancer.
Yeah.
And so she provided some comfort for him, and they've been friends ever since. And he's got a younger brother named Dallas who's in their gaming guild.
Yeah.
And he's like a troll, right?
He serves no purpose.
No purpose at all. His purpose, as far as episode 115 is concerned, has yet to be revealed, right? So he's got no purpose as far as I'm concerned. If you haven't done something with that character in the first 100 episodes, why are they in the story?
Well,
right?
here's the thing. If I'll let you continue, but I just want to point out that I think Let's Play is only supposed to have 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah.
The entire first season should be your setup phase. If you're introducing new characters in season 2 and it's not like an episodic thing where each season has a new villain, then like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no.
Like, why are you introducing new characters in season 2 that aren't part of the main story and aren't new villains?
No.
Or like, it's not a new arc. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's bizarre. And so Link, he decides one day that he likes Sam, right? He has a crush on her, he asks her out, but Sam is too oblivious to know that he's asking her out. So Dee takes Sam aside and tells her, look, Link likes you. You should go out with her. And at this point, we see that Sam doesn't have experience with guys.
Yeah.
She's shy. She's anxious. She doesn't see Link that way. She sees him as a friend.
Right.
But he's pursuing her. And so Angela, being her overprotective friend, gets wind of this. And she's like, oh, but does Sam know? Because Sam asks to hang out with Link, to give it a try, see if she wants to go out with him. And Angela overhears and goes, but does Sam know that it's a date? Because I don't want her to be in an uncomfortable situation, right? And so she tells Link, you know, it's not supposed to be a date, right? And so then she says, I think Link might think it's a date to Sam when they're playing their game. And so then basically Sam and Link go to a dog park.
Yeah.
And they walk Sam's dog, Bowser. And there's like a lot of stuff where she's like having erotic thoughts about him all of a sudden, getting nosebleeds and everything like that. And since he's a paramedic, part-time EMT, he like tends to her and he takes care of her and he's drawn with the aura of a protective lion.
Yeah.
Right? And he doesn't like Marshall because he knows Marshall destroyed...
All of her friends hate Marshall.
Yeah, they all know, they're all hip to the fact that Marshall destroyed her career as an indie gamer as far as they're concerned, so they all hate him. And you have that awkward interaction at the park with Monica, Marshall touching his hair and everything like that.
That was weird.
And Sam is really nervous around him because she's nervous at the idea of thinking about him as more than a friend, like intimately, right? As a side note, you have that freaking weird dream sequence where she imagines a
cross between Marshall, Link, and Charles
guy, like, tying her up and, like, whipping her or something.
That was really weird.
And I was like, what are you trying to do right now? Like, what is the point of her having erotic thoughts about Link and having uncontrollable nosebleeds around him? And then the solution to that problem with the nosebleeds is Vicky tells her to watch porn and get desensitized to sexual thoughts.
That was terrible.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Let's just put that in this comic that anyone can read on a website aimed to kids.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't get it. Like, what's the point of that? What comes from that? What does that do for Sam as a character?
It does nothing for her.
It doesn't do anything. And then
the whole Link arc where he basically pursues her, it all comes to a head basically, like, not to cut you off, but it all comes to a head basically where after they go to the dog park, she starts interacting with Charles more and more on the other hand. And meanwhile, she doesn't know where she stands with Link. Meanwhile, she's kind of getting a crush on Charles. And then Link takes her home from the hospital after Marshall collapses. I think this is in, like, early season 2.
It's like the first couple episodes of season 2.
Yeah, like 5 between season 1 and season 2, they were building up Link as a love interest. And early on in season 2, they just kill the entire plot line where Link tries to kiss her and then he goes, sorry, I'm not attracted to you.
Yeah.
And Link spent, like, 10 plus chapters chasing after her. You had his backstory, how he met her, and then all of a sudden, like, the second time they go out together, it's not even like he tried dating her for weeks.
No.
You know, they didn't even go out on a real date when they went to the dog park.
No.
It's like between seasons, Manji was just like, you know what, F that plot line.
Yeah, I don't care.
And then all that happens is that Sam goes, am I, like, unattractive to men?
Yeah.
But it doesn't change her character in a way that I can tell. Like, by the end of season 2, it's like it didn't even happen.
Yeah, basically, she only thinks about it a couple times with Charles, but she was like that before anyway. She said Link would never ask me out on a date. And then the second time, after Link rejects her, she goes, Charles would never find me attractive.
It's not like she dated Link a few times and she got a huge boost to her confidence. She started dressing differently, acting differently. Everyone noticed. And then Link broke up with her and said, I'm not attracted to you anymore.
Yeah.
Or I was never attracted to you.
Yeah.
And then it just sends her into a tailspin.
Right.
It's not like that was the result. And it's not like she dated Link and then she was the one who came to the realization that she didn't find him attractive.
Exactly.
So it's like the whole thing was a waste of time.
Right.
Because you get the same repeated idea with Charles, like you said.
Yeah. And so that entire event unfolds over, like, in terms of real life time, the chapters it covers is like more than a year's worth of content.
It's like 15 to it. So he gets introduced as a potential love interest within the first, like, 6 chapters. Mm-hmm. And then you cut away from Marshall starting in episode 30.
Yeah.
And then from episode 30 to, like, early season 2, Link and Sam go on a few dates, and Sam's thinking about Link as a potential love interest.
Yeah, that's like 80-something.
80-something chapters. But after she goes out on a date with him, you just hard cut. And it's pure Charles the whole time. Charles.
Yeah, but specifically, like, the reason I bring up the time that is elapsed is because in-universe, that's only, like, a couple days, right?
Yeah, in-universe, he goes on a date with her, I want to say on Saturday, they go to the dog park. And then Marshall collapses on, like, Wednesday or something. And, like, they didn't even go on a single date before Link was like, oh, what if she doesn't like me, blah, blah, blah. And he was, like, thinking so highly of her. And in the span of a day, he's like, I'm not attracted to you.
Yeah, it's like, what?
So you didn't even give her a chance.
No, he said it's like being with a relative. He says, when I think of kissing you, it's like thinking
But they didn't even go on, like, 3 dates, and then on the 3rd date, she invites him in, and then he, like, tries to get it on with her.
Yeah.
And then he's like, sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't. I feel nothing for you.
Exactly.
I thought I could do it. I thought something would change. I gave you a chance repeatedly. I thought, you know, that feeling in my gut would go away if we just knew each other better. But it never changed.
No.
Something similar happened to Back to the Future.
Yeah.
In Back to the Future, Marty somehow ends up dating his own mom. Don't ask.
No, he goes back in time and she likes him because he's cool, and then he takes her to the prom.
Yeah, he takes her to the prom, but then she actually kisses him.
Yeah.
And then she goes, there's, like, it's so weird. Like, kissing you is gross and weird.
Yeah.
And it's not, they never even kiss, though.
Yeah, because Manji wanted her first kiss to be with Charles. That's why. So Link couldn't have kissed her.
then what's the point?
And that's what we say with like the aborted arcs and the wasted opportunity and the poor execution, right?
Yeah.
Because we know that Link didn't kiss her, but he said, when I think of kissing you, it's like kissing a cousin.
You didn't even kiss her,
You
bro.
didn't even kiss her. Like,
you didn't even kiss her!
Yeah, and then immediately after that, Angela gets mad at him, rightfully so in my opinion, because she says, you were basically like leading her on, and then you said something so bluntly that without any regard to her feelings, any tact, and it was like what's wrong with you, bro? So she confronts him about that.
And this is after you reveal that Angela was violently sexually assaulted.
Yeah,
mind you.
Yeah, I mean, and Sam, it's so funny because during that conversation about the assault, when Link says, "Oh, did I?" Because he and Angela get in an argument. He grabs her from behind. She freaks out and she bites him on the arm, and so he's wearing a bandage to cover that bite mark. And then he asks Sam, did I do something to Angela to scare her? Did something happen to her? And Sam goes, that's Angela's story to tell. And he goes, oh, was she assaulted? And Sam goes, yeah. It's like, what? That's her story to tell. Why are you telling it all of a sudden? Right? And so then she just explains what happened there, and that Angela since then has been kind of
scared.
Yeah, very defensive around guys, right? She has a lot of rage and a lot of fear
and trauma.
And she feels very ashamed about that. And she also said Link is the last person she wanted to find out about that, because we also find out
like 50 chapters in that Angela's known Link for years too.
Yeah,
and then like, she's had a crush on him for years too.
Yeah, it's so funny because she goes, wow, blonde hair, blue eyes, just my type. Right? You know? So I was like, okay, I guess she's liked him this whole time and they've never dated.
No, but she doesn't even act like she likes him. Like, she's talked to him several times at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
She's the one who told him, I don't think Sam thinks it's a date.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like she was going like, I want Link for myself.
No.
It wasn't like she was trying to sabotage the relationship.
No. So it's just confusing. And so then
Angela gets mad at Link.
Yeah, Angela gets mad at Link for rejecting Sam after the hospital kerfuffle. And then she confronts him in the coffee shop, and he takes his shirt off because he says, if beating me up makes you feel better about this whole thing, I don't want you to ruin my new shirt because money is tight. And then she starts like basically beating him up, right? She puts him in like a chokehold and she like knees him in the crotch or something. And then he says, look, just don't do to me what you did to that guy who assaulted you, right? And she goes, how do you know about that? Like, you're the last person I wanted to know about that. And then she feels very ashamed. And then Vicky diffuses the situation. Angela apologizes, and then, they leave it at that. And then right in that same time span, he's still standing in the coffee shop right after this thing, where she's like, you're the last person I wanted to know about.
And she was so ashamed, and she was like crying and stuff.
And they showed fear melding with rage and forming shame, right? In a huge behemoth of a personality. And then Link starts thinking about her manhandling him, and he blushes.
Oh my god.
And it's like, I get that you want to set this up, but for God's sakes, don't put those two events right next to each other.
Well, like, give it some time to breathe, too. Like, that's the biggest problem. There's too many events happening so close to each other that, like, the character motivations don't make any sense when it's like, again, Link and Sam only went on one date.
Yeah.
They didn't even kiss.
At this point, Link seems like a scumbag.
No, Link seems like friggin' Romeo from Romeo and Juliet, where in the beginning he's, like, pining after that other girl.
Yeah.
And then he sees Juliet, he's like, F that other girl, I want Juliet.
Exactly.
Like, it's literally like a flip switch.
Yeah.
1 second he's going after Sam and like, no, I've always wanted Sam. I've always been interested in her. And then the next is like, oh, but that Angela though.
Yeah, Angela.
It's crazy.
Beating me up after talking about her traumatic experience.
No wonder I didn't like Sam. Sam could never beat me up.
Yeah, and it's like, what the heck is going on here? So, yeah, a lot of people in the audience were also saying they don't like Link because he said, I'm not attracted to you. So, I mean, that's 3 strikes against Link right then and there, right? The switch flipping between Sam and Angela, him saying he's not attracted to her after pursuing her, came out of nowhere.
It did come out of nowhere, because he also, he was flattered that she was like, take me home, Link.
Exactly.
And he took her out for dinner.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in her romantically, why wouldn't you just be like, because when they went to the dog park, he's like, do you want it to be a date? And then she doesn't answer, she gets all flustered, and he's like, okay, I make you uncomfortable, I'll just leave.
Yeah.
When they go get dinner after the hospital, he should have just been like, no, I have plans. Like, he should have been avoiding her after that.
Exactly.
He should have been like, after that one, like, if you didn't want him to basically date Sam or kiss her because you wanted her to get with Charles, then have Link just be like, after that dog park thing, I realized that we're totally incompatible.
Exactly.
Instead of showing up to her driveway and, like, almost kissing her and then being like, at the last moment, no, you're not attractive.
Exactly. Just makes him look like a jerk. And then,
like, what the heck?
Getting all flustered with Angela, right, in that short span is, like, priorities, bro. Read the room,
I
bro.
know.
What's wrong with you, bro? So it's not looking too good for Link.
No.
And then as a consequence of that, you also have Sam acting wildly out of character.
Really out of character.
Where she gets jealous of Charles and Monica and uses Link to make Charles jealous, or to attempt to make him jealous.
Yeah, it's like Sam is the same way, where she also doesn't know if she's attracted to Link or Charles.
Yeah.
The only guy that she has no, like, romantic feelings towards at this point is Marshall.
Yeah.
But Link and Charles are so confused, and like I said, it's almost like she wanted to do the Link arc before the Charles arc, but something happened in between season 1 and season 2, because in the beginning of season 2, it's like Link just becomes chopped liver.
Yeah.
Like, all of his arcs are accelerated to, like, write him out of Sam's life as fast as possible.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
It's bizarre, but yeah, during that entire arc with Link, you've got Sam, on the one hand, blushing uncontrollably around him and having a nosebleed, but then opening Charles' shirt and looking at his bruises, right?
Yeah, but she wasn't consciously attracted to Charles at that point in time.
Yeah, but it's still confused,
It's
right?
confused.
It's a confused set of things going on at the same time, and that has to do with mistiming, right?
Well, it also has to do with, it has to do with mistiming, and it also has to do with, like, not knowing what to keep and what to throw away, because I think the entire Link character and the Link and Angela plotline should have just been thrown out of the story.
Yeah.
Because it is just confused. It just seems like Sam doesn't know what she wants, and any, like, warm meat guy next to her that's, like, reasonably attractive, she'll just go after her, because she's, like, suddenly, for no reason, after 22 years of not dating guys, she's, like, got this insane need to date a guy all of a sudden. That's what it just comes off to.
Yeah, and it's like, previously, at the very beginning of the story, she said that she would rather work on her game than socialize.
And she was happy being alone.
Yeah, and she's got another game in development on an app
Yeah.
that she's working on too. So it's not like she can't work on games anymore. And now that she's not distracted by that, she sees all these people around her living their lives, and she feels like, what am I doing? I've wasted so much time.
You could have set that up with her game being tanked.
Yeah.
I'm a failed game developer. I sacrificed so many years of my life for this.
Yeah.
I sacrificed the potential to have a boyfriend for this.
Yeah.
I had no friends, no boyfriends in college. And, like, look at all of my friends. Like, they're all settled down. They're all happy. Give them all boyfriends, you know? Like, Angela and Link does not need to be, like, a side romance that detracts from... There's already too many love interests in the story.
Yeah.
For the main character.
Yeah.
So why would you pivot to secondary relationships?
Exactly.
But yeah, it's not like her game being tanked is what caused this to happen, where she's like, I have nobody in my life, it's just me and Bowser. I thought that was enough for me, but if my game's gonna fail too, then I don't have anything. I don't have my own career, I work for my dad, I don't have my hobby because it got tanked, I don't have a boyfriend, I don't have many close friends, you know, like that would have been something.
Yeah.
But this is just like, it's just a series of hot guys and situations where Sam is getting flustered. And I noticed that when I was reading through, I was like, this doesn't even feel like a romance. It just feels like a series of, like, fan service moments.
Yeah, because to add on to the characterization of Sam, with the random jealousy appearing out of nowhere, the lust appearing out of nowhere, you've also got an issue where you don't understand why she likes these guys.
No.
And you don't understand why the guys like her.
No.
Right? And that's one of the things that's, like, more compelling about a romance, right? That's one of the things that you look at in a romance that's good.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, it's so sweet how that character A loves that about character B.
Or the setup is enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers.
Yeah.
It's satisfying when you have these two characters that you know would be really good together. They hate each other, and then for them to slowly realize, oh, I was wrong. It was, that's like, it's like a complete 180.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been an interesting progression to see.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, even with her boss, if you wanted Charles to be a secondary love interest, it could be like, oh, I misjudged him this entire time. He's totally different, actually, you know?
Exactly.
But there's no slow build. There's no emotional core to any of these relationships. The closest to an emotional core that I saw was between Sam and Charles, and that was more like, again, I was saying it off camera, it comes off like a 15-year-old having a crush on her, like, teacher who's taken a special interest in mentoring her.
Yeah.
Like, Charles is a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
He volunteered to mentor her, and Sam has a crush on him, but it seems really one-sided.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why she would have a crush on him, because he's going out of his way to help her. He's really charming, polite, whatever, attractive. I don't know why he would like her.
No.
Like,
Nope.
every time it's like, oh, Charles' heart is thawing, it's just a panel of Sam making puppy eyes at him.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something about her personality. It's
No.
just, like, her crying, and then him being like, oh, my heart, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy!
Yeah, there's nothing about her that's attractive, even from the perspective of Link. I mean, we were talking about when they went on their date, they went back to Sam's apartment, and she goes, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go? And he goes, I would go to Yosemite. And she'd be like, you could go anywhere in the world, and you'd go a place that's only a few hours away. Yep. Why? And then he's like, because my dad, who died of cancer, used to take me and my brother there. And she's like, oh. And then he goes, okay, well, where did you go? And she goes, you'll make fun of me. And he goes, no, I won't. And she goes, oh, I want to go to Japan to Funtendo headquarters, right? Video games. And they don't play games. He's not interested in playing games.
In fact, he doesn't even play games to, like, indulge her. No. She says, let's play games. And he says, no, I'm not interested.
It was the most awkward date ever. I was like, oh, crap.
They have nothing in common.
So, like, why did you even put this in the
Why
story,
are they even
right?
friends? I was sitting there at the end of that going, like, why are you even friends?
Yeah.
Like, what do they have in common? She has more in common with Dallas than she does with Link.
Seriously, it's crazy. And
like,
so,
Link, it's not like Sam's, like, funny, witty, charming, and they both like watching movies together.
No.
You know, like, I have friends that I don't have a lot in common with, but we have similar personalities, and we find each other intelligent and interesting.
Yeah.
This is like, they have nothing in common, and Sam's personality is a dud, Link's personality is a dud. Like, what is there here?
Yeah.
How are they even friends?
No, Link and Angela it makes a lot more sense, but the way it was handled, like, the way it was executed was just god awful.
Yeah, I know. Because she only had 10 chapters to do it, and she wanted to write in a dramatic backstory.
No.
It's like, you don't have 10 chapters to, like, introduce and resolve this, you know?
It just makes him look like a creep. Yeah, so that's just the best example of how a lot of the ideas are mistimed and poorly executed, and how it leads to further problems in the story, like bad characterization, stuff that doesn't really make sense, issues with the timeline.
Well, just ideas that don't fit in with an overall strong thematic narrative, so it just feels like stuff is happening.
Exactly.
Like events are just happening, and you don't know why.
Yeah, and then in terms of the, like, aborted arcs and wasted opportunities, the ViewTuber thing is, like,
the biggest wasted opportunity.
Nothing. I mean, we talked in part 2 about having, like, a Jake Paul type character, a David Dobrik
If you
type
centered
character.
the theme around identity, that would have been really interesting to play with, because you could give everyone an alter ego. You could have Sam, again, limit it to 3 characters, Sam, Marshall, Charles, as the secondary love interests. They all have their own alter ego issues that they're dealing with, and like the gap between your true self and the person that you're molded to be by society.
Yeah.
And that would have been a nice story, and any subplot that has to do with identity would have felt cohesive instead of like, why are we pivoting to this? Yeah. What does this have to do with anything? You know?
It would have been hilarious if Marshall gets roped into being in a hype house because his views are falling. And
and he has to like sell out.
Like, how do I do this? And then like he does a hype house. And then it's like the guy who's in the hype house, because, you know, a lot of YouTubers in real life get wrapped up in, like, crypto shenanigans, and they had a lot of things with that. So if some guy was trying to make his own crypto exchange, and he needed to contact Sam's company to create the payment, platform for that, and then she gets roped into the hype house and uncovers, like, some kind of, like, scam that they're doing. Yeah. And then she helps Marshall, like, reveal the scam or something, right? I think had that be an arc.
Well, I think the whole thing with her father, it would have been a lot stronger to have her dad, like her issues with her dad holding her back and coddling her, if that centered around her father trying to mold her into the version of her that he wants her to be.
Yeah.
And then Marshall has that going on. That's kind of hinted at in the later episodes, like 115 to 120.
Yeah.
So then that would be an echo between the two of them, because Marshall fought to get away from that himself. Like, he dropped out of law school because he didn't want to be the son that his father wanted him to be. He wanted to be his own person.
Yeah.
And that's an identity theme.
That's why his last name is Lawson.
Oh, I get that. Yeah. Son of a lawyer.
Yeah. It was there from the beginning.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously.
And then, but then so then that would be an echo between Marshall and Sam. That would have been really satisfying to see. And then Charles has this whole backstory with, like, fencing, how he could have been an Olympic level athlete, but he chose not to pursue that dream for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You could tie that into his little identity arc, so that all 3 characters have identity being a strong core of their role in the story.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the characters that you could kind of, like, mash together, a lot of that would tie up the stuff with the wasted opportunities and make it more focused and aborted arcs. But all that to say, the reason why I feel like a lot of this stuff is rushed when it comes to the setup and payoff, and you observed this as well. There's a lot of rushing, there's a lot of weird characterization.
There's a lot of stuff that's started but never fully completed. The thought's never fully completed, or it's mistimed where it's like it's so rushed.
Yeah.
It's either aborted or it's just very rushed.
Yeah, but the reason it's rushed is because what she's building towards is charm.
And I don't know if that was a plan from the start or if that was executive meddling.
I don't think it was a plan from the start. I think maybe it was a plan from the start, but the timing and execution is probably different.
It was expedited and
Yeah.
then drawn out a lot more.
Yeah, drawn out a lot more because I don't think divorce was part of the initial story. And the reason I think the divorce was a retcon is because Charles has been there for a year.
Yeah.
Right? Or Sam's been there for a year working.
Charles has been there for a year.
Yeah, and Sam's brother says he knows that Charles is bad news.
Right.
And Ubed knows, because Charles got drunk on New Year's and said it's his birthday and his anniversary, and he got drunk and spilled his guts about his ex-wife and how they were high school sweethearts, got married at the age of 18, and then she cheated on him with a business partner, right? And they've known that for a year. It's a small office. Apparently everybody in the office knows that. It's never hinted at by anybody.
It's never hinted at until, like, season 2.
Yeah.
Where they show the ring.
Yeah.
That's the first time it's, like, shown, I think.
Yeah. So it's not hinted at the beginning for sure. And then, so I think that was thrown in there to make him more of a sympathetic character, because I think not only did the audience like him and were they sympathetic towards him, but I think this is where the idea comes in of, like, executive meddling, where somebody maybe in the editor's side told her to make Charles more sympathetic and more of, like, a main love interest, so she had to think of reasons to draw out their I guess their union more.
Their relationship.
Yeah, the relationship being that he's got trust issues because he was divorced, right? And so the thing about him having, like, a high school sweetheart getting married to her at the age of 18 is so against his character. In, like,
a lot of
day.
things are very against his character.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, they set up Charles as, like, this cool, logical, rational dude who's manipulative and reads people really easily and is not above, like, using some shady tactics and manipulation to get his way. And he's kind of, like, morally gray, where he's not a bad person, but he's not a good person either.
Yeah.
And, like, he has, like, a bunch of, like, flings going on with a bunch of different women who all just basically use him because he doesn't want to commit to a relationship. So he's not, like, obviously from the very beginning, he's not a good partner for somebody like Sam. So with that in mind, with him being so logical, rational, and easily, like, able to manipulate people, why in God's name would he go for Sam? Who's not only is there the thing where it's like, why is he attracted to her? But there's also the thing where it's like, it's his boss's daughter.
Yeah.
Why would you, at a small company, why would you intentionally go after your boss's daughter? Unless he's, like, playing some kind of long con here and manipulating her for some other purpose. But
That's what I thought it wasn't.
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I don't think that's what it is now, but I think initially that was the case. Because I think initially he wanted to be CEO and he was going to use her to get that, and then she would realize he's using her.
Like, as a villain. Yeah, because when he was first introduced, he was very villainous.
Exactly.
And now all of a sudden he's like, oh, my wife.
Yeah.
My waifu.
Yeah.
The black baby.
Yeah. Like, weird. Right? So, yeah, I think from the beginning he was supposed to be, like, the villainous third potential love interest. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, Charm just kind of commandeered everything, and for a brief period there, the audience was so confused as to who they were supposed to ship together, because there was no clear...
There was no clear idea at the center of Let's Play, and all of these guys, even though I could see the Link falling apart from a mile away, because it's pretty clear that they wouldn't make a good couple, and I could see Charles and Sam falling apart from a mile away because they aren't a good couple.
Yeah.
I think the audience is just, like, really dumb, A, and B, also... Like, why would you give these guys screen time?
Yeah.
If you're not going to have the failed relationship significantly contribute to the main ship.
Yeah.
Like, it would make sense if she was dating all these guys and then she was slowly becoming friends with Marshall, and Marshall was still, like, the main dude.
Yeah.
But Marshall disappears from the story.
Exactly.
So it's like, I'm confused too. Like, it'd be one thing, again, like, there's, like, shows where this is the case, where it's, like, the two, when Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Where they're both, like, friends the entire time, even while they're in different relationships.
Yeah.
But that guy, like, the main dude and the main girl...
Harry and Sally.
Yeah, they're both, like, the focus of the story.
Exactly.
There's a way to do it so that they date other people, but they're still the focus of each other's stories.
Exactly.
And that's not what's going on in Let's Play. Like, Marshall literally becomes a side character in the story after episode 30.
Exactly, and the VTuber thing takes a backseat to the office romance.
So it is confusing.
Yeah, and it becomes more about Sam's personal growth, and I'll put that in quotation marks because it's not a consistent growth.
No, because she doesn't have a consistent character. Same thing with Charles. Like, it would be one thing if he became her mentor and kickstarted her growth, but his character is so inconsistent that he started off as a mentor, and it seemed like he would never be, like, interested in her, and now he's all of a sudden like, oh, my heart, and I'm like, why? What about your heart? Why are you interested in her?
Exactly. Yeah, the thing about the two, Marshall and Charles playing the game, and the game itself doesn't really go anywhere after they give it positive reviews. And like you were saying off camera, she's got tons of gamer friends, but I guess their opinions don't matter when it comes to her game.
Why does she care so much about Charles and Marshall's opinions?
She forgets completely that Marshall's fans ruined her game score. The game score still isn't fixed by episode 115.
No.
She's working on this app. She's
trying to get a proposal to Engineer as a game developer to fix their website, and that's taking a backseat, a complete backseat.
And it's like she's not angry at Marshall anymore. She's not frustrated with Charles for
continually pushing her out of her comfort and manipulating her.
Yeah, and then also giving her like stupid coffee job and work with the intern job, right?
No.
And then it's like everything, like the priority of where the story should be going is just not clear because there is no theme there. Like
there's no theme and there's no central conflict either.
Yeah.
There's no, like, I hate martial law, I need to get my game score back, or if it was a self-development thing, if, like we were saying off-screen, if Sam herself realized that she was coddled and she was seriously lacking in the skills that she needed to be an effective businesswoman, and we had, like, this whole training arc, or the mentorship arc, there's no conflict, you know?
No.
There's no central conflict, and neither at her workplace or with Marshall and being an indie game developer.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the story's building towards anything.
No.
Like any major set piece of the story.
Just charm.
Yeah.
It's building towards Charles and Sam getting together.
Yeah, it's not like The Proposal, right? Where the whole thing is that Sandra Bullock is going to be deported, and so she and Ryan Reynolds have to go to his grandma's 90th birthday party in Alaska, and then convince the family that they're getting married, and then learn everything about each other so that they can ace the test.
The Proposal, if you made it like Let's Play, it'd be like, that was the premise, and then they get to Alaska, and within the first 5 minutes being in Alaska, Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds realize that they actually don't hate each other.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie was just like random stuff, and then Sandra Bullock falling in love with like Ryan Reynolds' brother or something.
Yeah.
And like, this is like completely the opposite of what I thought would happen with this setup.
And The Proposal isn't even a good movie.
No, but it's an effective romance.
It's an effective romance. It grossed a lot of money.
Yeah.
It set out to do what it wanted to do. It accomplished what it set out to do, right? So that's the most apt comparison here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rom-com with a quirky premise, right? Down to the charming racism. It's very easy to compare The Proposal to Let's Play.
Yeah.
But where The Proposal succeeds is that it has a constrained story. It's a very constrained story.
And it's got it's got a very strong, like, central idea.
Yeah.
And then the characters are all very consistent with that.
Yeah, nothing in that movie happens where you're just like, what the F does that have to do with being, like, deported and having to fake a relationship, right? There's nothing really that happens in that movie that's so far out there that you're like, what?
It's almost like Let's Play is like a Bollywood movie. Where like random stuff happens and you're just like, what the F is going on?
Exactly. It's like
there's too many characters.
Yeah, and that's what makes me
like
think
Race 2.
Yeah, Race 2. Oh my gosh. And that brings us to the part where we talk about rewrite ideas for how you could have fixed it. Right? So as we've been harping on, the things that we've been repeating over and over again is too many characters. You know, you should...
Or a lack of a clear theme.
Yeah, lack of a clear theme and characters that don't really fulfill their purpose in the story. And so you had a really strong idea for the direction of how it should be rewritten. So why don't you go ahead and get into that?
Yeah, as I've been saying throughout this video, I think a strong theme would be identity, because Sam's central character growth comes from her having to choose between wanting to be a good daughter and fit the mold that her dad set out for her, and then wanting to be an indie game developer. And that persona that she is right now is more in line with the persona that has been constructed for her by her overprotective family and friends.
Yeah.
So the whole idea would be like, you need to break out of your shell. You need to find out who you really are. You need to stop being a people pleaser and become your own person, you know? And then you have Marshall, who's got the whole struggle between his YouTube persona and his actual persona. And you just cut out Monica entirely and just have the focus on, or you could have Monica there and then he breaks up with her at the end of season 1 or something.
Yeah.
But you have the idea there being like, he himself tried to go and forge his own path, breaking away from his dad, but now that he's settled in as a VTuber, he's kind of constrained himself into another box, you know? Does he actually feel happy as a VTuber, or is it just a persona? Like, he could have a struggle where he's like, I don't think anybody would like me unless I had this persona. And you kind of have hints of that in Let's Play, but just make that stronger.
Yeah.
Like, make it so that every time he's, like, charismatic and charming, it's all just fake. It's a mask.
Yeah.
He's not naturally charismatic. He's not naturally charming.
You could even have somebody dox him, right? Like,
yeah. And find his old high school pictures and he had, like, really bad acne and he was overweight and he was, like, a dorky nerd with, like, confidence issues.
Or even, like, barely sociable. He's a YouTuber. Somebody threatened to leak pictures of his face because I believe the person who was threatening to leak those pictures told him, your entire platform is built off of being relatable, but the true you is not relatable at all, because Barely Sociable is, like, really good looking.
Yeah.
And, like, really fit.
But I don't think the whole premise of his video is him being really relatable.
Yeah, that's like the fan projecting onto him, right? And so with Marshall, you could have the same thing.
No, yeah, with Marshall, because it's also kind of hinted at that he's so beholden to his fans that it makes him depressed to think of disappointing them.
Exactly.
So you can have is that his identity is so wrapped up in his YouTube channel and his YouTube persona and not disappointing his fans, but it's like, that's unhealthy. You need to cut that off, you know?
Exactly.
And then there's also the idea in Let's Play that's, like, barely explored at all that he really wants to just be an artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just make that...
Because he's good at drawing.
Make that his, like, strong core, because right now I don't know what character he's supposed to have.
No. And that's when I said earlier that he's a parody of himself. In that yoga chapter, you just have him throwing out, like, funny one-liners.
One-liners.
And that's it. Like, Marshall basically is just there to do one-liners now.
Yeah. He's like the Dean Winchester now.
Yeah. That's it. That's all he's become.
So I think that idea, like having Sam and Marshall be the forefront of the comic and struggling with their own identity issues, and then give them, for God's sake, give them a compelling, like, enemies to lovers or, like, rivals to lovers storyline, because this whole thing where they make up in the first, like, 15 chapters was so... It was like taking an interesting premise and then just popping it.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Again, like the proposal, if in the first 5 minutes when they get to Alaska, they make up and they're like, actually, it was a misunderstanding. And it's like, no! The part that's funny is watching these two guys bicker. You know, that's funny. That's fun.
Exactly.
You want to see that happen on screen. You don't want friggin' Pride and Prejudice where, like, at the first ball, Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy are like, oh, I got the wrong idea, you know?
Yeah.
No! You wait for the end of the book for that to happen.
Exactly.
And then, yeah, you have the same thing with Charles. You give him identity issues, too, but you make Charles and Link the same guy, because I like the idea of Sam wanting to be liked and going for a guy that's not good for her just because she likes the ego boost, and then that rejection spurs, like, a huge growth in her character. I think it should have been Charles.
Yeah.
And I think you keep the idea of Charles mentoring her and give Sam a crush on him, but make it one-sided.
Yeah.
Because, honestly, I have no idea why he would be attracted to her. And he could be like, I'm flattered, but I'm too old for you, A, and B, like, you're not confident enough. You're not at the level where I feel like we would be good partners.
Exactly.
Like, literally, you should just say that, and it would be, like, a huge blow to her self-esteem, but it would also be a huge motivator for her. Like, Charles doesn't take me seriously.
Right, like, during the moment where he says that you're going to present your proposal to engineer yourself.
Oh my god, she starts crying.
Yeah, and she goes, please don't make me do that. Charles gives in the comic, and he says, it's okay. You know,
and he thinks it's cute!
Yeah.
Later on that night, he's like, oh my god, you're so cute!
Yeah, but meanwhile, throughout the story, we've been seeing that he is, like, pleasantly surprised when she pushes back.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when
he
she
enjoys when she pushes back.
Yeah, when she hangs up the receiver when he's about to call Lucy, and he goes, wow, that's interesting. And then when she pushes back, when he tries to take her notebook for the positive affirmations, he goes, well, you finally did it. You passed my test, right? And he really enjoyed the creativity in her game, right? He likes puzzles. He likes something...
like, the fencing thing is, like, almost like a metaphor for the fact that he likes witty repartee and mental sparring.
Exactly.
He plays mind games and, like, sparring with people mentally.
Yeah. And so when I read that bit about the proposal of, you know, you're presenting it to Engineer, I knew exactly where it was going, and I thought she would do it because she wants.
I thought she would do it too.
And then when she did it, I was I was very disappointed.
I was very disappointed too.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
When she started crying, I was like, what the F is this?
Yeah,
it's like 1 step forward, 10 steps back.
Exactly.
Like, she wasn't even crying when he, like, left her in the elevator.
No. So I mean. It was like, it was very...
And then for Charles to find that cute, I was like, what is going on?
Exactly.
This is so opposite of what Charles was previously shown to like and enjoy about Sam.
Yeah.
It's like, he thinks she's brilliant, but she just needs to be pushed out of her comfort zone to become a truly formidable force.
Yeah.
So why would he find her, like, crying on his shirt? Why would he find that cute?
Yeah, and why would Sam do that? Sam has too much pride to do that, you know? She didn't
even cry in front of Marshall when he ruined her chances of becoming a game developer.
Take your dirty money back. I don't want your money. Right?
I know.
She's got a lot of pride. So
she has no problem confronting people.
No. So it was bizarre, but it's because charm takes precedence.
Dude, it feels like the characters are being, like, I don't know if it's executive meddling or what, but it feels like the characters are almost being twisted to fit this narrative of, like, strong boss, dominant boss, and, like, weak, meek main female character. Literally 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
And it's like, these characters don't fit that scenario, and it's bizarre when it starts happening in the story.
It is. It's very disappointing. Especially when you binge it.
Yeah, and it's the opposite of what's been going on before this.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think that was a missed opportunity to make Charles a mentor figure, and then make him rejecting her, like, the growth arc for Sam. And then I also like the idea of Charles even manipulating her for his own ends.
Yeah.
And then Sam realizing, like, I was using you as a mentor because I thought you truly wanted to help me, but now I realize that you were also just doing it for yourself. And then Sam learns to stand up for herself. She learns not to be easily manipulated. And then she, like, gains self-confidence and self-assertiveness. And then meanwhile, this whole time, you have the whole Marshall, oh, I misjudged him arc going on. So if I rewrote it, it would be something like season 1. You have Marshall and Sam being enemies, and meanwhile the whole charm thing is building in the background. At the end of season 1, you could have Marshall break up with his girlfriend, and Sam and Charles, like, either they get together or Sam confesses to Charles at the end of season 1. And then in season 2, you have Sam and Charles dating, or Charles rejects Sam, and then Sam has to go on her own self-discovery arc. Meanwhile, Marshall is single, and, like, Sam and Marshall become friends. And then, I don't know, I thought it would be interesting if Sam entered a relationship when Marshall was single. So then Sam would be like, oh, Marshall wants to date me, or I think I'm more than friends with Marshall, but I'm stuck in this relationship. And then through that, she realizes that the relationship she's in isn't the relationship she wants to be in.
Exactly.
And then season 3 would be Sam and Marshall together.
Yeah, I just think in addition to this stuff happening, you need to have, like, an event that you center each arc around that you're building towards.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I think you should have the proposal to Indigeneer. You should have some VTuber fiasco, like a hype house or
I think she
convention.
should confront her dad.
Yeah.
In season 2. If you're going to have the Sam as a single woman, like, growth arc thing, her dad should be the focus of season 2.
You could even have a family Thanksgiving where they go to a remote cabin and Charles goes with. As, like, he's, like, my boyfriend, so I'm taking him there. And when she confronts her dad, Charles sides with the dad. And she's like, this whole time you've been pushing me to be independent, but you're siding with him because you want to be CEO and you want to be on his good side.
You could also parallel, if you're going to do Sam's dad in season 2, you could also do Marshall's dad drama too at the same time.
Yeah, like he could quit being a VTuber and then he goes crawling back to his dad.
And he becomes like a paralegal or something.
Yeah, and then his
or
dad...
maybe he actually has a law degree and he actually like starts working as a lawyer.
Yeah, and then it's like the most soul-sucking thing he's ever done in his life.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, I can't do this.
And then Sam and Marshall will be in the same position where they're in jobs that they don't want to be in.
And then she helps him get his YouTube viewership back by some crazy scheme, right? And that's the event that you build around in season 2.
Season 2. Meanwhile, they're both working soul-sucking, terrible jobs, so they're both on the same level, and they're both dealing with dad drama.
Exactly.
So they become closer.
Exactly.
And then also in... I also liked the idea of her game, Ruminate, paralleling what's happening in the story with Marshall and Charles playing it and that revealing different aspects of their personalities. But I think, like, it only happens for, like, 5 chapters or something.
Yeah, it happens towards the end of the first season.
Yeah, and it's such a wasted, it's such a wasted idea because I liked that idea.
Yeah.
I think you could have had Marshall and Charles playing the game, like, kind of throughout the first season, and then you reveal, like, their results in mid-second season or something, where that's a pivotal moment that changes how Sam views Charles.
Yeah.
You know? Or changes how Sam views Marshall. But instead of it, like, because I think in Let's Play, there are entire chapters just devoted to Marshall playing the game.
Yeah.
I think it should have been something where it's like, you have the A plot, and the B plot is Marshall and Charles playing the game, and you alternate who's playing the game based on where the focus is in the story.
Yeah.
And the game itself, the gameplay is not a main, like, it doesn't take over the story for chapters at a time. It should always be a side parallel running to the main story.
Yeah.
And it just echoes whatever's going on in the main story thematically. What's going on in the game should echo that. Instead of, like, the Little Red Riding Hood thing, which is, like, this has nothing to do with the main story.
No, and it has nothing to do with Olivia and Edgar either.
And it has nothing to do with Marshall's personality.
No. So it's like... The fact that the NPCs in the game were modeled after people she knew in real life was very distracting to me, because I'm like, what is this supposed to say about these characters in real life? We don't get enough from them to know what the relevance is behind their positions in this game.
No.
Right? Except for maybe Dallas.
Being a troll?
Yeah. Troll, no people talk to troll.
Yeah, no people talk to
Angry
troll.
talk is better than no talk at all. I was like, what the? Right? Like, what the heck is going on here, right? So... and Sam being the ghost.
Yeah.
Like, what does that say about her perception of herself? Is she that?
No, she's the princess.
Yeah, she's the princess and the ghost.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you trying to say? Like, what's her perception of herself if that's how she put herself into the game?
She was only the ghost, or she was only the princess, so that when Charles refuses to marry her, she haunts him for the rest of his journey.
Yeah.
That's supposed to basically foreshadow that Charles would basically turn her into a ghost of herself if they ever got in a relationship together, because she's just too dominant.
Yeah, but is she aware of what that means when she put that into the game, like thematically?
No, because when Charles told her the ending, she was like, what? And then it doesn't change her perception of him at all.
No.
Charles even says, like, if I knew that was the ending, I would have turned the game off before I got to that
that's
ending.
why it's bizarre to make it meta, and at the same time, like, she's not aware of the ramifications of that.
No, because then Charles is basically saying, if I knew that was going to be the ending, I would have turned it off before I even got there. Basically saying, if I knew that this relationship would fail, I never would start it.
Exactly. So there's no awareness on behalf of the creator. It's like
or the
she
characters,
programmed that.
yeah,
you know, like, no, I'm talking about the creator of the
game, yeah.
right? I mean,
so the characters.
Yeah, the characters, right? There's no awareness, like, oh crap, maybe this Charles guy isn't, like, she could ask him if you had that idea about the big family get together for Thanksgiving. She could be like, so what ending did you get for the game?
And then she gets disappointed.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just a game.
Yeah.
And then she's like, no, the game tells me how your personality works.
Yeah, and so then he's like, you're so obsessed with your stupid little game that you're not living in the real world. And then she's like,
and then he can be like,
Marshall.
games are not reality. This
Yeah.
game has nothing to do with how I am as a person. She's like, oh, really? It looks like it is to me. You're not in any relationship. I feel like you're a ghost in this relationship.
Exactly, you're ghosting me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then Marshall can show her what his ending was, and he's like, did I beat the game? And she goes, oh, there's different endings. And he's like, oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
right?
but his ending is like way more telling about his personality, because his actual ending, when he was telling her, I was like, you didn't give him a spooky ending with a ghost that makes you go like, oh, you know?
No.
Like, Marshall's ending was so basic.
Yeah.
So, it's not like he married the princess.
No, he just gave her a grave marker, and then she was at rest.
Yeah. So, like, how come Charles's playthrough had to do with his relationship with Sam, but Marshall's had nothing?
I don't know. That's, like, the question. It's like, what are you trying to say thematically about that, right? Because there is a thematic meaning behind it.
Just
right?
like there's a thematic meaning behind the dog.
Yeah, why Bowser doesn't like Marshall, right? And so it just becomes confused because there's too much stuff going on, right, in the story. So yeah, that's the basic rewrite ideas that we have there. And I guess we're in closing thoughts now.
Yeah.
So just to reiterate, the main takeaways from this video and this discussion is that when it comes to putting out something that you're going to have to release on a weekly schedule, it's a good idea to plan in advance and have bullet points for chapters in advance. We said 10 to 20, right? So depending on the length of your chapters, you can figure it out along the way, because otherwise you're going to run into issues where you're going to lose track of plot points, or maybe not execute things and time the executions or resolutions of certain plot points as well as you could have.
Yeah, like, it's clear Manji has an outline. It's clear she has an idea of where she wants things to go, like, character and plot-wise. But a lot of times, like, you'll see that she's rushing. You know, like, oh, instead of spending time on, like, the stupid porn stuff and the nosebleeds, you could have had Sam reflecting on her relationship with her dad, so you don't just ship him off to Hawaii midway through season 2.
And her reasoning, I think she should have been the one to reject Link and say, you remind me too much of my doctor brother.
Yeah.
Because Link is always rushing to her defense and trying to patch up her wounds, just like her brother could have when they were kids, but the brother came out of nowhere, so clearly he was just an afterthought.
Exactly.
So little things like that you can probably catch and avoid and nip in the bud if you do a little bit further down the road planning when it comes to bullet
also
points.
if she had cut the extraneous stuff and had a theme as an organizing principle,
Yeah.
you could have made all of these storylines much stronger.
Yeah.
Like, you cut the number of storylines, but the ones that are left are so much stronger and say so much more about the characters in the story, instead of just feeling like, you know, there's so many things going on, there's so many characters, and, like, all the people in the comments kept saying, I don't know who's to ship.
Yeah.
There's too many ships in these waters, you know?
Exactly. And instead of having, like, a story where a bunch of, like, not really anything happens except for interpersonal drama, right? Marshall gets sick and he goes to the hospital. Something that can help make your story more interesting and make things develop in tandem between the characters as the story develops as well.
And you have, like, that really satisfying echo effect.
Exactly, is you base the events of the story around one pivotal event that you're building towards, right? In this case, we talked about a VTuber convention, a hype house, a family gathering for Thanksgiving. We talked about the proposal, we talked about when Harry met Sally, and how they have their New Year's thing and everything like that. If that event, that idea, that I guess, set piece, right? If that set piece is related to your theme, it's very satisfying, like you said, to have the echo effect of, like, whether it's the video game or the presentation to Indigeneer rippling across her relationships with Charles and Marshall. Right?
Yeah, I think the video game would have been a really satisfying way to parallel the themes of the characters and give insight to Marshall and Charles, and then also parallel to what's going on IRL in the story.
And that's how you avoid having episodes where characters just go to yoga.
Yeah.
And, like, you see characters having a raid with cameos from another webtoon.
Yeah, and it goes nowhere.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I guess that's interesting, but...
Dallas sneaking into the women's virtual bathhouse.
Yeah, and Dallas stealing toilet paper. What's up with that? Dallas taking pictures of Angela.
What's up with that?
What's up with this Dallas guy? I mean, seriously.
What's going on there?
I don't know. It's bizarre. But yeah, so I guess those are the main takeaways from our discussion. Anything
Yeah.
else to add?
No, but I think Let's Play could have been a really entertaining story, and I think the rewrite ideas that we have, and like if we're gonna put art in here, the like artistic direction and the way it could have been would have been really fun and interesting, and it's just a shame that the plot was lost so quickly.
Yeah.
And so hard.
And I get why people are upset, because it promised a quirky romance centered around gaming and VTubers.
And enemies and rivals, all that stuff. That drama.
And this crazy situation where your next door neighbor is like a PewDiePie, and you're like the biggest fan of this guy, and he trashed your game.
Yeah.
It didn't deliver on that premise. So I understand why people are like, this comic is not good.
Yeah.
You know? From that standpoint alone, not getting into the other gripes that people have with it didn't deliver. And so it's like boring to read, right?
Yep.
After 100 episodes, it's just like, what's even the story
What's
anymore?
the main plot? Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't tell you. So yeah, those are our thoughts about Let's Play, the first 115 episodes. I know there was a lot of brouhaha about like the season 2 finale or something.
Oh, I can tell you what the season 2 finale is. It's only got 2 seasons. So the season 2 finale is the dad comes back from Hawaii with the mom, and I think he catches Charles and Sam. Charles and Sam start dating.
Yeah.
And then there's like the real cliffhanger ending, which is that Charles starts snooping through Sam's phone because he's jealous because she starts becoming friends with Marshall. He starts snooping through her phone to check her messages with Marshall because he's paranoid that she's cheating on him.
Yeah.
And then the fake out ending that everyone hated was the dad coming back from Hawaii and initiating the peachy pumpkin poo protocol. And it turns out he activates it, and like there's like a joke, like the entire, like half the chapter is basically a joke by showing all these people who are secretly spies of the Peachy Pumpkin Poo Protocol, including Bowser, including the old man who's sitting next to her on the bus.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then there's like a shot of the Oval Office, and the president is also part of it. Like, it's just a joke. It's clearly a joke.
It's not.
And everyone is getting like, everyone got so mad. They're like, oh my god, Manji, how could you do that to her audience, you know? And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, Let's Play has always had really goofy humor. And especially when it came to the dad, it was never meant to be taken seriously.
No.
I think that's a missed opportunity because it's an opportunity to echo Marshall's family drama with Sam's. But the dad has always been a joke character.
Yeah.
So, you know,
yeah,
that's just it. I mean, I think the real cliffhanger, like I said, was Charles becoming really jealous and not trusting Sam.
Yeah.
And Sam caught him. She's like, Charles, why are you looking at my phone? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So it was basically setting up their breakup.
Right, yeah. And then I guess season 3 is all going to be about her and Marshall getting together.
Probably the last season.
Yeah.
But it's just such a shame that, like, Charles is taken up, like, to the end of season 2, which is like 160, I think it's like 167?
Yeah.
177. From episode 40, well, let's call it episode 60 to episode 177, that's over 100 episodes, has been focused on Charles.
Wow.
And, like, maybe the first 30 plus, like, an additional 10 have been on Marshall. So Marshall's only gotten 40 chapters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not, like, half of them aren't even with him and Sam, it's with him and Monica.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, wow.
Wow,
Charm ruined this comic.
Yeah, they're after me, Lucky Charms.
And, like, look at this banner. It's him.
Yeah.
It's Marshall and Sam. He's not even in the comic.
No.
It's crazy.
No, the fans like the charm.
It's crazy.
They like him. They like his blonde hair and blue eyes.
Oh my gosh.
His Welsh thing.
Is it Welsh or is it German?
That's another stupid joke we have about this comic. Because a lot of people, like, accuse Manji of being, like, racist and stuff. So we joke that Charles is, like, this Fourth Reich.
Yeah, sleeper agent.
Sleeper agent. Like, he just looks
you
like...
mean the Third Reich?
I mean, what Reich did they get up to in real life? 3 Reichs?
I think it was the Third Reich.
Yeah, so he's the Fourth Reich. He's when they took the brain from the cryo chamber and put it into a new body.
There's brain?
Yeah, because that's why he's got that haircut. Because his hair slowly becomes more like that as the comic goes on.
That's true!
It wasn't like that in the beginning.
No,
it was like
wasn't.
this.
It was
and now it's like this, you know?
No, it was like pushed back. Like a side part that was pushed back.
Yeah.
And now it's like a dome.
Exactly.
Like a highly greased dome.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so, you know who.
Yeah, so we joke that he's a secret white supremacist Nazi.
Yeah.
Because he looks like the poster child for, like, you know, pure...
You know who.
Yeah, pure eugenics or pure genetics or whatever. But, I mean, all that aside, that might not even make it into the final video because people are so effing sensitive. But yeah, so...
Do you briefly want to discuss the differences between Let's Play and Lore Olympus? Because people might think that we're not as hard on Let's Play as we are on Lore Olympus.
Yeah, we could. Okay, yeah, so just briefly, as a point of comparison, I know a lot of people think that our tone on Lore Olympus is super hard, and that our tone on Let's Play is not as hard, and they might think that we have, like, some sort of bias in favor of Let's Play, but honestly, Let's Play is way more competently done.
It is way more competently done.
It's just boring. I mean, like you were saying, there's no point where you're like, how did that character get over there? Why is the background a void? What's going on here?
There's no point where the Zeus character 2 chapters ago realized that Hermes couldn't bring Persephone to him, and then 2 chapters later tells Hermes, "You're gonna bring me Persephone, right?"
No.
That never happens.
Yeah.
The other thing that never happens in Let's Play, you have a setup, the premise, which is completely flubbed in favor of the Office romance.
Yeah.
In Lore Olympus, the premise changes every 20 episodes.
Because she bases it off of stuff that she's been
There
watching.
is no premise.
No.
There is no premise for Lore Olympus. In Let's Play, the characters sometimes have like weird ways of speaking, but they have pretty strong characterization in the beginning. It only starts to falter in the later chapters where they start becoming inconsistent.
Yeah.
And it feels like the characters are just acting a certain way to get to like a certain fan service scene or whatever.
Right.
In Lore Olympus, there are no characters. You
No.
can't tell the voices from each other. There's no personality. There's no character arcs.
No.
Like just in sum, Manji's a better artist. Manji's better at sequential storytelling. There's never a moment where I'm like, what the F's going on? I can't tell with this art.
Yeah.
Manji has a clear like idea of where she wants to go, and she has like an outline and character arcs. It's just that they're not executed very well. Rachel never outlined, never came up with character arcs, never bothered to create a plot, you know? And then like, yeah, just overall, it's a lot less annoying to read. And there's no like genocide, you know?
No, Charles
no-
takes out some guy's eyeball.
There's no sexual assault
Yeah.
that happens in universe
Yeah.
on screen.
Yeah.
So
No
yeah,
drama.
it's just
Yeah.
way better.
And like another thing is that like it seems to be a lot more mature.
It is a lot
right?
more mature.
Like the characters are a lot more mature. They're a lot less like superficial.
Their
and
lives,
strange.
their
Yeah.
lives, and the stuff that they deal with. It was written by somebody who has more of an understanding and appreciation of real life issues like workplace, you know, how to act in the workplace.
Yeah.
Your career, thinking about your career, what you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that in Lore Olympus.
No.
Persephone doesn't care what she does with her life as long as she's with Hades and gets
Yeah.
her ears pierced.
Yeah.
You know, there's no like
Yeah.
the misogyny in Let's Play. I feel like it's way less misogynist.
Yeah.
Like it's refreshingly not misogynist.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I really like Monica's character.
Yeah, I like Monica's character.
She's
She's
very
like a
refreshing.
subversion of the
Yeah.
like the rival character.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, just in general, it's way better written. It's competently written. You can't even say Lore Olympus is competently written.
It's technically decent.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I
technically
mean,
decent. It just fails on like the larger overarching issues.
Yeah.
With like, you know, no strong theme, no strong idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then Lore Olympus fails on like every level.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to compare the two is like difficult because it's like, honestly, Let's Play isn't even good, but it makes, like, next to Lore Olympus, it looks like a work of art.
Dude, I was reading it and there's notes. I wrote notes for all the chapters because we're covering so many chapters. There are times when I was like, Manji's so much funnier than Rachel.
Yeah.
Manji's so much better at paneling than Rachel.
Yeah.
Manji has like so much more charm and like interest and investment than Rachel.
Yeah.
You know, there's a point where Manji like includes, she does a lot of cameos for other people's stories, a lot
Yeah.
of cameos for other people's characters. She shouts out other artists, and then she also includes fans in her comic.
Yeah.
Rachel never does any of those things. In fact, Rachel drew fan art for Let's Play, and she just drew Persephone
And Bowser.
and Bowser the dog.
Yeah.
Like, what a garbage person.
Like, what the heck, right?
A terrible person.
Like, you couldn't be bothered to draw her characters. You had to draw your own
I
character.
know, you had to draw your own character.
And the dog.
And she didn't even change the art style or
No.
anything.
Like,
Wow.
what is that, right? So, I mean, yeah, there's just, like, a difference in terms of, like, the subject material. It didn't make me want to claw my eyes out like Lore Olympus does.
No.
Lore Olympus, if I read it too much, I get very angry
Mhm.
and agitated.
I think it's really shocking that Manji's Patreon is nowhere near as successful as Rachel's. And I
Yeah.
think it's... I don't know if it is shocking that Lore Olympus is more popular than Let's Play.
You don't know if it is? What do you think that's a reflection of, then?
I don't know if that's a reflection of Webtoon's bias, constantly marketing Lore Olympus, and they don't do that for Let's Play.
Yeah.
A. And B, I don't know if that's because Lore Olympus is clearly more geared towards children, like we said in our last Lore Olympus video.
Yeah.
Which attracts more eyeballs to the comic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of both factors. I think when I was reading Let's Play, I noticed that a lot of the passages and the themes and the ideas and the way the characters talk to each other is very mature. And some of her dialogue sounds a little stilted and Christopher Nolan-like when it gets very technical, and she's trying to drive the point home so like hard that it's devoid of any sort of casual sort of conversational kind of tone, right?
The way the characters speak is much more elevated and mature.
Yeah, so it's
then
like...
the characters respond maturely too. Like, Monica, her counterpart in Lore Olympus is Minty. And when Marshall accidentally hugs Sam when he's like doped up on drugs, Monica just goes, "Oh, you did? Oh, well, I'm not bothered."
Yeah.
But in Lore Olympus, look at the whole Minty and Persephone
Minty
drama.
has like a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so much more juvenile and childish and over the top with the way that the characters act.
Exactly, like turning somebody into a plant because she told
on you for a crime you actually committed.
Oh my god, you know, and Let's Play, Sam doesn't even leak the fact that Marshall secretly has a girlfriend, even though she has like a reason to. Not that she would be right to do it.
The drama quotient is much lower in Let's Play than in Lore Olympus because the characters aren't a-holes.
No. And, like, to have a situation where it's, like, Angela is angry at Link because she feels like he led Sam on, and then he cruelly dismissed her by saying he's not attracted to her, which is very blunt. Like, the idea behind that is multifaceted, right? Even though I don't agree with how it was executed and I thought the timing was bad, I still understood what she was driving at. And the way Angela explained it, you could tell that there was, like, a reason for her to be upset, right? So...
The other thing I was going to say is that there's no princesses and like queens and kings in Let's Play, and there's no materialism.
There's no glamour.
Yeah, there's no glamour. Yeah. There's no capitalism. There's no materialism. All the characters wear very simple clothes.
Yeah.
You know, like Marshall's presumably rich. He lives in a small apartment. I was actually confused because Charles lives in a nice apartment. Yeah. I'm like, where'd this money come from?
Yeah.
But Marshall lives in a very modest
yeah.
livings, even though he makes a lot of money as a YouTuber.
Yeah.
None of the characters wear fancy clothes. They don't drive fancy cars. There's no diamonds and fur coats. Like, it's just so much less, it's so much more realistic.
Yeah.
And grounded.
It's not like...
And real problems that real people, like, you know, young people who are like, I'm doing this for a paycheck, but this isn't what I really want to do.
Yeah.
Like, a 13-year-old who loves Lore Olympus can't relate to that.
No, I mean, a 13-year-old can...
Lore Olympus is like sleazy Disney princesses.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it honestly is.
Like, golf-swinging diamonds off of... Oh, not diamonds, cubic zirconia.
That makes it better.
Yeah, that is, like, not in Let's Play, so... Obviously, Let's Play just sucks by that merit,
God.
right?
That, I mean, now that we're talking about it, that's probably why it isn't popular.
Yeah, because it's not a materialistic...
Garbage fire.
Capitalistic, dramatic, overly...
Soap opera.
Yeah, soap opera, juvenile...
Piece of trash.
Yeah, piece of trash. So, that's the answer to that question.
That's depressing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really all we have to say about Let's Play. If you guys liked the format of this video... Feel free to let us know in the comments. Give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you have suggestions for other things that we can cover in this nice condensed format instead of torturing ourselves by going panel by panel, feel free to drop suggestions down below. We've already gotten a couple suggestions from you guys that were interested in
Midnight
checking
Poppyland, True Beauty, Unordinary. Those are the ones that I'm interested in right now.
Yeah, and then we've also got Castle Swimmer.
Yeah. A
couple people talked about some of the Korean ones like Viral Hit, Get Schooled. True Beauty, I think you already mentioned.
Yep.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, we'll try to put some more stuff out and hopefully not do feature film length videos if we can...
Full of hate!
Yeah, if we can handle it, because that can be pretty repetitive.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time.
Repetitive.
Yeah, it takes a long time. We're trying to get to the point where we're getting more efficient and trying to hone in on the specific takeaways that you can get from these series.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at them panel by panel. So I hope you guys enjoyed that and you took something away from this video. But yeah, until next time, we will see you guys later. Same sofa, same people, different discussion, different outfits. Not Let's Play, because we're done with Let's Play.
And not Lore Olympus.
Not Lore Olympus. We're done with Lore Olympus. You don't have to see another Lore Olympus.
For a while.
Yeah, I mean, my God. You got to check yourself in to get an MRI scan after that Lore Olympus, because it is terrible. So yeah, we will see you guys later.
See ya.